Have you ever noticed how time has gained a face? It appears in the feed of someone who made it at 25, in the wedding photo of the former schoolmate, in the apartment bought by your cousin, about my college friend's planned baby, in the perfect body that the blogger rebuilt after pregnancy. You look at all this with a slight squint, not out of envy, but out of demand, as if everyone around you was moving forward, and you were standing still, parked somewhere on the road, waiting for a permit that never arrives. You repeat mentally, I should be further away. At this age, I should have something. Everyone seems to be living. What about me? But nobody told you that time is a collective fiction, a carefully choreographed illusion to keep the comparisons in order, an invisible script where steps become obligations. Graduate by your early 20s. Stabilize your career until you're 30, building a family by 35, and then keep pretending that this was always enough for you. But there is a silent violence in this, because the soul has no clock. She has rhythms, and each human being flourishes in a time that cannot be synchronized with the calendar of others. You are not late. You're just off the script you were taught to follow without thinking, and perhaps that is precisely where your truth begins. The most perverse thing about this comparison is that it robs your process of its dignity. Turn your break into failure, your silence in error, your journey in competition, but you are not a number in a race, not a corporate timeline goal, not a promise of success with an expiration date. You are a being in transition, boiling, under constant construction, and that's why haste makes you sick, because it demands to blossom before the root. It demands delivering results when you are still trying to figure out who you are. The time you call wasted may be the most sacred time in your life, because that's where you listen to yourself, that you discover what you want to keep and what no longer makes sense. It's where you stop running for prizes you didn't even want and start walking towards what truly represents you. From an early age, you learned that there is a right time for everything. But it was never you who defined that time. It was school that told you when you should learn to read. It was society that told you when you should choose your profession. It was the family that taught you when it was time to grow up. And it was fear disguised as responsibility that taught you to run. You were still a child when they asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? As if it were mandatory to know. As if life were a linear, predictable, timed path, but no one asked who you were becoming now, because now was never enough. You were good, but you could be better. You passed, but you could have been first. You graduated, but soon they asked, and now what are you going to do? Time has become a ladder. Each step has a deadline, each goal has a weight, and every delay with guilt. You have been awarded for productivity and penalized for breaks. He was praised for following and judged for stopping, and so little by little he learned that resting was a waste of time, that reflecting was procrastinating, that changing your mind was a sign of weakness. Haste has become an addiction, and the silence and discomfort. You've started measuring your life by milestones that aren't even yours. The age at which you should get married, the ideal year to have children, the month that needs to hit the target, the decade in which you have to have your life sorted out. But who decided it was like this? Who drew this invisible timeline that hangs over your head like a sentence? You were never slow. He simply refused, without realizing it, a rhythm that does not respect his soul. Life is not a queue. And even if it were, no one can guarantee that whoever arrived first knows what they are doing. And perhaps the greatest act of courage is admitting that you don't want to run anymore. Not because it is weak, but because you are tired of running after what is not yours. You are not late. You are waking up, and waking up hurts, because it is in this awakening that you see that much of your rush was just fear. Fear of disappointing, fear of being left behind, fear of being forgotten. But now that you're here reading this, you have already started to question. And where questioning is born, the beginning of freedom is born. Comparison is a trap. She seems harmless at first. A quick look into each other's lives. An inspiration, perhaps. But if you repeat this gesture too many times, you start to lose yourself. Other people's time becomes your ruler. The ruler that measures you, who judges you, that defines you. You see someone achieve something and you feel like you're behind, but you ignore what that person had to give up. Or worse, you ignore whether that goal would make any sense in your life. You copy goals without knowing if you want the result, chase landmarks without knowing if you want the path, and you start living to achieve not your truth, but the rhythm imposed by voices that you no longer recognize. It was at this point that Alan Watts wrote one of his most cutting sentences: "Life is not a race. There is no end point where everything is resolved. Life is like music, its purpose is not to reach the end." And that's what you forgot. You've turned your life into a schedule, in an action plan with annual goals. But the soul does not follow spreadsheets. She dances, and dancing requires presence. It requires listening. It requires knowing when to stop and not feeling guilty about it. The anxiety that torments you is not just because things take so long. It's the idea that there is a right time for everything and you're late. But late in relation to what? To whom? Did you know that bamboo takes years to grow underground before it appears? Did you know that it takes decades for a fig tree to bear its first fruits? And that doesn't mean they are considered failures. Because every living being respects its own rhythm, except for the human being domesticated by haste. You weren't born to run like everyone else. You were born to understand your time. And whoever understands their own time disarms the fear of being late. You begin to realize that there is no such thing as too late when what is at stake is your truth. Because nothing is more violent than blooming in someone else's time and withering within yourself. There's something no one tells you about rushing. It steals more than time. She steals presence. It steals discernment. And little by little, it steals you from yourself. In your eagerness to accelerate, you stop feeling. It goes through deep cycles, as if they were tasks. Make important decisions like someone who answers emails late. He eats relationships out of fear of loneliness, not out of desire. Accepts proposals out of panic over delay, not on purpose. Haste demands immediate responses. But the truest things in life don't come on impulse. They mature. They reveal themselves in silence, and silence is exactly what the rush does not allow. You force yourself to run, and in running, you abandon fundamental parts of who you are. Abandon care, abandon listening time. Let go of the internal signs that tell you when something is not right. Have you ever noticed how some of the worst decisions in your life were made in the heat of anxiety? That choice made to not be left behind, that yes said too quickly so as not to disappoint. That insistence on maintaining something that had already ended just because it seemed too late to start over. This is how haste sabotages you. She convinces you that stopping is dangerous, that questioning is a waste of time, that to rest is to fail, but it isn't. Stopping may be the only way to hear what you've been ignoring. Questioning can be the most lucid act of your existence, and resting is allowing the soul to reorganize itself. What you call lost time may actually be time you are returning home, coming back to yourself. Haste takes you away from yourself because it forces you to exist in other people's time. But you are not the others. You have your pain, your story, your breaks, your folds, your inner eddies. And all of this needs space. You can't force the flower to bloom faster. It opens when it's ready. And there is not enough sun to accelerate the flower that has not yet felt safe to exist. It's the same with you. Your haste may be killing what is still trying to sprout. We live in a world that idolizes movement, who applauds those who are always busy. who venerates productivity as if it were a virtue and sees rest as a moral failing. Have you noticed this? Saying, "I'm stuck," has become a form of status. Being overwhelmed has become a sign of importance. Answering total rush is almost automatic, as if stopping were a reason to be ashamed. And in this sick logic, you learn to explain yourself by being tired, apologizing for not being able to cope, justifying every break as if it were a mistake. It's just a phase. I'll get back into the swing of things soon. I'm reorganizing myself, but the truth is, there's nothing wrong with your rhythm. Wrong is a system that requires you to run until you no longer remember why. You grew up watching commercials selling you speed, courses that promise in 7 days, companies that exchange soul for delivery, people who pride themselves on sleeping little and working a lot. And he thought that was success. But success for whom? Who benefits from your haste? For those who profit from your guilt? For those who only value you while you are producing? This fast-paced world is blind to inner time. He doesn't understand the cycles of grief, does not respect creative pauses. He doesn't see the importance of getting lost before finding himself. It's a world that tells you, hurry up, but he doesn't ask you, do you really want to go there? He confuses haste with focus, confuses performance with value, confuses movement with meaning, and you, without realizing it, start repeating this rhythm. He starts to feel weak because he can't take it anymore. You start to feel incompetent about slowing down. You start to blame yourself for feeling something that no one is saying, but almost everyone feels. This race doesn't make sense anymore. The pause is revolutionary, because in a world that demands haste, stopping is an act of rebellion, and it is during the pause that you can see again, hear again. The question arises again, is this what I want, or what is expected of me? You are not late. You're leaving a road that was never yours, and leaving is scary, but it also liberates. Have you ever really asked yourself, what is yours? Not what you have achieved, but what was born in you even before they became goals. What moves you for no reason? What calls to you even when you try to forget? What remains even after everything seems to have failed? These things don't follow deadlines. They have no validity. They just wait for you to come back. Sometimes, yes, time's pro-center. Come back to listening. Real life is not measured in deliveries, contracts, schedules. She reveals herself between the lines, in the intervals, in what persists even when you've tried to run from its essence. How many times have you stifled a desire because you thought it was too late? How many times have you given up on starting over because it was too late? How many times have you stopped trying something new because there wasn't time for it anymore? But what is yours is not lost. He just waits for you to be whole enough to receive him. It doesn't matter if you start at 30, 40, or 60. It matters if it is true you're not late. You are preparing soil, and planting requires patience. The culture of now has taught you that everything has to be immediate. But what is true matures at the exact time it needs. The tree doesn't bear fruit just because you're in a hurry. The sun doesn't rise just because you want the day to begin. Your soul will not blossom just because the world is in a hurry. And here's a secret no one told you. What is born outside its time dies within its truth. Forcing something before its time is sabotaging your own power. It's having a relationship just so you don't feel alone. It's accepting a job just to appear successful. It's keeping quiet just to maintain the appearance of maturity. But what is yours, deeply yours, never requires haste. It just takes courage. Courage to not go with the flow. Courage to be alone a little longer. Courage to endure the discomfort of those who call you backward as you, for the first time, start walking in the right direction. And that direction has no sign. There is no estimated arrival date. But there's something most roots don't have: peace. The biggest lie you've been told is that there is a universal clock, a right time, a logical sequence, a when that applies to everyone. But it's not worth it. Because no one, absolutely no one, has the right answer about the time of one's own soul. Neither does the author of the self-help book. Not even the speaker who says I made it at 25. Not even the relative who pressures you as if they know what's best for you. Everyone is, in some way, groping in the dark, but some have the courage to stop and listen. Will those prefer to run with their eyes closed just to make it look like they're doing well? And maybe this is what sets you apart. You are starting to listen. Not the voices from outside, but the whisper from within. The one who doesn't shout but weighs. The one who doesn't push you but calls you. He who has no arguments, only truth. The time of your soul does not speak in deadlines. He talks about pulses, in discomfort, in repetitions that tire, in joys that come back from nowhere. You don't need to understand everything rationally. You just need to learn to respect what you feel, even when it makes you go slower. There are decisions that can only be made after a deep silence. There are paths that only appear when you stop running. And there are versions of you that are only born after all the others die. Listening to your own time is a painful process, because sometimes it requires you to stand still while everyone else moves. And in this world, addicted to speed, stopping seems like failure, but it is not failure, it's preparation. Only those who stop listen, and only those who listen realize that they were going in the wrong direction. Have you ever noticed how silence is uncomfortable? How does the pause reveal everything you've been avoiding feeling? It's because silence is a mirror. And it is in that mirror that you begin to see what is ready to be let go of and what is finally ready to be born. You are not lost. You are listening. And this listening is the first step to living in your own time and not in the borrowed time of others. Haste destroys what you have not yet learned to value. It corrodes deep conversations because it demands quick answers. It sabotages sincere relationships because it imposes unrealistic expectations. It kills creativity because it turns everything into surrender. And the saddest thing is that you don't even realize it. You think you are moving towards a better life, but in reality, you're just moving away from the only life that could make sense to you, the one that takes time, the one that requires maturation, the one that requires presence. Have you ever noticed how everything that is truly important takes time? Love is not born on the first date. Trust is not built in a month. Vocation doesn't appear at 20, and peace cannot be bought with achieved goals. But haste doesn't care about that. She wants you to give in before you feel it. Let him decide. Before he understands. Live as if everything has an expiration date, including your happiness. This is how you end up choosing the shortest and emptiest path. Accept the job that doesn't represent you. Stay in the relationship that makes you sleepy. Pretend everything is fine because stopping and starting over seems too risky. But the biggest risk is not stopping. It's continuing on autopilot until you forget how you feel. Haste loves performance. It values those who can do it, those who win, those who achieve. But she completely ignores who she feels, who pauses, who changes his mind, who unlearns to be reborn. And everything that is true in life demands exactly this time: space, silence. Haste is the language of fear. Time is the language of truth. You don't need to speed up. You need to listen. You don't need to prove anything. You need to feel what you already know. You don't have to arrive first. It needs to arrive in one piece, because in the end you'll find out that everyone was trying to achieve the same thing, a place of peace within yourself. But you can only find this place who has the courage to slow down. You are not falling behind. You are leaving a place that was never yours. He is abandoning the uniform of haste, the weight of comparison, the echo of voices repeating it's about time. And in place of this noise, a new silence begins to emerge. A silence that does not suffocate, it welcomes. That doesn't charge you, listens to you. For the first time, you don't feel ashamed of being in your own time. You look around and see people running, but understand that not everyone knows why they run. Not everyone is going where they want to go. Not all of them are whole. And then you breathe. And as you breathe, you realize the right time does not exist. What exists is true time, the one that fits your body, not the calendar. One who respects his cycles, not the urgencies of the market. The one that doesn't require you to rush, just be present. You start to notice that you are lighter, not because life became easy, but because you stopped carrying what wasn't yours, the rush of others, other people's clock, the plan of others. What is yours awaits you, and wait in your time. It is not a passive wait, but a wise wait. Who understands that there is something inside you that can only be born when you are ready. And now you are. Because stopping is not failing. To stop is to return. Return to the center, back to listening. Return to yourself. You've run too much. You've already tasted too much. You've pretended too much. Now it's time to live truthfully, to respect the rhythm that your soul has. Even if it is different from the pace of the world, allow yourself to take your time, to walk calmly along a road that, this time, you chose. And whoever chooses is not late. He is conscious. If you've come this far, perhaps something inside you recognized each word as a mirror. Maybe because silently you already knew. The problem was never being late. The problem was trying to rush to fit into a place that wasn't yours. The truth is that life has never been in a hurry with you. She always waited. Waited for you to get tired of pretending. Waited for you to stop comparing yourself. Waited for you to get tired of running without direction. And now that you've stopped, something has begun to be born. It's not a plan, it's not a goal, it's not a formula, it is a presence, it's a return, it's a sigh that comes after years of holding your breath. Alan Watts said, "The meaning of life is not to get somewhere, it's dancing with time, as if it were music." And maybe that's what you're starting to feel now, that living is not about meeting deadlines, it's feeling the beat. It's not about giving everything away, it is to be whole. You don't have to get there. It just needs to be here with truth, with the courage to slow down, with the freedom to disappoint expectations that are not yours, with wisdom to create a time that embraces you and doesn't cover you. Haste does not represent you. The pause, yes, because it's during the pause that you see yourself. And when you see yourself, time makes sense again. Now, if this touched you in any way, if this video was like a mirror you haven't seen in a long time, I invite you to continue this conversation, but not in a hurry, with presence. Like this video if it made you breathe differently. Comment if any part seemed written in your voice. Subscribe to this channel, but only if it makes sense for your time. By the way, these two videos that are appearing there on the side, one of them is about what you don't say. The other about what you haven't yet had the courage to feel. Choose carefully and meet me there, because sometimes all we needed to hear was this: you're not late. You were just trying to live on other people's time. Now that you've come to your senses, start living for real.